Can you
There
hear
we go.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
There we
There we
go.
go.
All right, I
Perfect.
got you. How you doing, man?
All right, man. How are you?
Doing good, man.
Oh
Doing
yeah.
well.
Oh yeah. How's Hemmings doing? How you guys doing over there? I know you started working about a year ago, something like that, right? Or 2 years
No,
ago now.
I've been there since 2020. I came
Okay.
out right in 2020, right before the pandemic hit.
Right. I gotcha.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
been there going on just over 4 years.
Okay, cool. How you like it over there? Keeping
It's
busy?
yeah, unbelievably busy actually. It's good. It's been a lot of fun so far. And I mean, we're just it's interesting. It's like the world's only 70-year-old company that's like a startup.
Basically, right? I mean, you
Yeah.
got Hemmings, man. I remember my dad used to read those big brown like phone book looking classified ad
Yep.
books, right, back in the 80s or whatever, early 90s, and I think he still has some of them for some reason. He kept them all, but I remember flipping through those things as a kid, and I was younger, and then obviously the magazine a while back, I used to subscribe to them too and stuff. So I've always been a big fan
Yep.
of the brand and everything too. So I'm pretty familiar with what you guys do over there, and you guys been kicking ass and taking names on the videos stuff lately too. So I'm following all that
Yeah,
as well.
it's been a lot of fun so far. We've had a good time, and we've got a great president that's given us the given us the leeway to do what we know how to do, which is very cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I followed along to the Hellcat Durango project. I just wrapped up watching the Shelby GLH
Oh
Hornet
yeah,
deal you guys did. That was pretty cool too.
yeah.
So yeah, now I'm loving this Grand National with you and Killer Mike. So
Oh nice.
yeah, yeah. So tell me more about that project, man. How'd that come along? I know
You
it's
know it,
finished now, but yeah, like, as the videos come out, I'm playing catch up. But I mean, how the whole process ensue? I guess.
it was good. I mean I mean you've been in this hobby a long time, right?
Sure.
The longer you're in it, the more people you meet. Ron Baugh is a good friend of mine,
Okay.
and Ron is basically the creative director behind the project, and he kind of brought everything together. But Killer Mike is always, Mike is a friend of mine as well.
Cool.
So Ron came to me literally, I think it was the second week of December, and he was just like, "Listen, Mike's nominated for 3 Grammy Awards. I want to get his car ready for the Grammys. Do you think Hemmings would want to film a series on it? And would you want to host it?" I was like, "Well, maybe," because like I said, the Grammys is in February. This is mid-December. This was right before Christmas, right before the holidays.
Right.
Um, but it was a great opportunity, and so I went back to Jonathan Shaw, who's the president, and Matt Boyce, who's the SVP, and we talked about it. And, they said, "Yeah, let's do it," which was great. One, because Ron is a buddy, Killer Mike's a buddy. Having Soupy and Graham and that whole team be the ones responsible to build the car was just like a dream come true. And so it all just came together. It was one of those things. It was like the perfect storm. Like every piece of the puzzle was there. Everybody was available, and we just said, "All right, the hell with this. Let's do it." And when we did, I mean, the car turned out great. The
Yeah.
car turned out really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pissed a lot of people off because we threw an LT4
Yeah.
into a Grand National, so we tweaked
Right.
everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
But like it was, the 3.8 had a wicked rod knock in it. It was tired. It was shot. This was
Mhm.
not a perfect car by any means.
Sure.
This was a car that was a driver. It had seen honestly its entire life, and it was really at the end of it. And
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, we rescued it and we gave it another 40, 50 years in the road.
No,
So
for sure. For sure. I'm a
yeah,
Grand National owner, a big Grand National fan myself. So I was
yeah,
tempted.
yeah.
Yeah, I was immediately hooked when I saw that, the build series come together. So I've been tuned in ever since.
Nice.
When's the next I saw episode 4. When's episode 5 being released? Does that be this Friday? Do you know?
No, that's Thursday.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Thursday at 11. I think it's 11:15 Eastern time. It comes
All
out.
right, perfect. I'll be happy to watch, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So tell me about your background a little bit. I know, and I first heard of you back in 2007 with the Spike TV deal with Bull Run and all that, man. Mr. Angry the Charger, and yeah, I love that show, dude. It was the one season that was on or whatever, until another company took it over and started and kind of sort of
hmm
revamped a couple years later. But
Yeah.
yeah, that was like my favorite season of that show, man. I have a WS6 too, so I love what the Alsops are doing
Oh,
with their car
sure.
too and all that. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So tell me about that. How'd you go from I guess that to where you are now?
It was honestly a lot of it was just dumb luck.
Okay.
I mean, when that series came around, I was this was when big forums were up
Yeah,
and
yeah,
everything like that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I had a buddy of mine that was the editor in chief of a site called Car Domain,
Oh yeah,
and that was a big site back in the day. That
yeah,
it
yeah,
was like at that time it was the biggest automotive community online, and
yeah, yeah.
he was a Mopar guy, and he pinged me. He was like, "Dude, I we got called about casting for the show, and we're looking for guys, teams that have great cars." He goes, "And you just pop right in my head." So we submitted. It was myself, my buddy Jim, and the Charger was there, and we
Hmm.
submitted that, and they honestly they just cast us as two big Italian guys from New York and with a badass car, and
Hell
that's
yeah.
literally how it happened. So they flew us to LA. I was living in Queens at the time. They
Yeah.
flew us to LA, and we went through this interview process, which was, it was my first experience with anything that had to do with production, anything that had to do with entertainment, anything that had to do with anything with cameras or anything. And
Right.
it was kind of hokey in the beginning. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
it was the stereotype. It was everything you thought Hollywood was. It was like you come into a room and you sit down with a bunch of producers and they blow smoke up your ass for 2 hours. And they tell you how great you are and how this is going to change your life. And you're just like, guys,
Right.
just let's cut to the chase.
Right.
Tell me what this mess is going to be, and if you want to use us or not. If you do, that's great. We're all in. It'll be a lot of fun. But
Hmm.
let's stop with the overarching bullshit and get
Yeah.
down to how this show's going to be. So
Right. Right.
I think they cast us for a couple of reasons. One, we didn't care if we had gotten on the show or not. Our
Right.
attitude was like, you need us, we don't need you. We're still going to go about our lives and do whatever. Is it a great opportunity? Sure it is. And will it be fun? Sure it is. But we also understand kind of what we're bringing to the table. Um, so it was interesting, and I don't think they expected us to just be like, we don't care if you take us. And I think that was one of the things. That was one of the reasons I think we ultimately got picked to be on it. So
Yeah, yeah.
you
His
know,
personality just won him over. It's your whole demeanor and attitude and stuff. You could take it or leave it, kind of thing. Yeah, that's what they were
yeah,
going for. You know what I mean? And that's what they saw in you. So it definitely, it probably
yeah,
hooked them. And then of course you guys,
yeah.
your personalities in your car too was awesome. So yeah,
We were fortunate with that, and it's I still keep in contact with a lot of people that we did that show with. I mean, Bill Goldberg is still a really close friend of mine.
cool.
Morgan's a great friend. Everybody that we're on the show with, we're all still pretty close, which is cool.
That's cool. Oh yeah. So
Uh,
then you work for a couple different companies. Then you did a drive. You're doing a YouTube video series with them for a while, and then I think one or two other companies too. You're with them in between that and Hemmings.
yeah, there was a lot of stuff kind of in between that. There was a lot of
Yeah.
us that came from the New York metropolitan area that
Yeah.
kind of all hooked up at one time, right? It was myself and Larry Casilla and Matt Farah and Mike
Yeah.
Spinelli and JF Musial, who was all part of the Drive Network, and that was right place, right time, know the right people. That's
Yeah.
literally what that came to. Matt Farah and Larry Casilla owned a thing called the New York Motor Club at the time, which was up in New Rochelle. And what they would do is they would just organize these drives every
Mhm.
Saturday or Sunday morning where we meet at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and then we would just go rip up upstate New York, and there'd be like 30 of us just breaking
That's
every
awesome.
vehicular law on the planet,
That's
and it was
awesome.
great. It was
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
great.
man.
So like you'd show up, and there'd be like Lamborghinis and Porsches, and this was before anything. This was before YouTube or any rallies or
Right.
anything like that. These were just two guys that said, let's get a bunch of enthusiasts together and go bananas,
Yeah.
which we did. But in doing that, we also kind of shared this massive passion for automobiles, and we've
Mhm.
tried to figure out a way to get it out to the public, which ultimately is what we did. So it was cool.
Oh yeah, the old streetfire.net days, right? Where people
And
are
that's
sticking.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah, that's exact. Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're dating us. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah. I've been around stuff a long time too, like you said. So it's definitely been a lot of culture changes in the last 20 some years. So and speaking of,
Totally.
like you said, you're in New York pretty much most of your life till recently. You moved to out west and like San
Mhm.
Francisco area. So like, what's the culture differences out west to I suppose like New York and the car scene and that kind of thing? What's it like? What
Um,
what I mean?
it's interesting. I've been out here for about 12 years,
Okay,
and the biggest difference is I moved out here for the weather.
right,
Like that's it. And everybody bitches and moans. Everybody, if you tell somebody you're from California, they're like, you're crazy. Why do you live there? It's a ridiculous
right,
place. And I'm like, I mean, it kind of is, but in the same token, it's it could be November and or whatever the case is, and it's 72 degrees out and it's sunny.
right,
Like right now, it's going to be 74 degrees outside. It's a beautiful day. I can go out and I can drive my cars year round, and
yeah,
that's one of the main reasons that I moved here.
right,
Um, because doing this job in a place where you don't have the weather is very, very difficult. I can film
sure,
cars year round. I can drive cars year round. I'm not. I have like a place to keep my stuff as opposed to living in the boroughs where if you have a garage, that's like gold,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
you,
yeah, for
but
sure,
but but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay through the nose. And yes, we pay for it out here, but the added benefit of paying for that is you get the weather and you can enjoy everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, as far as the car culture is different every place you go. I think on the East Coast guys have it's a little grittier,
Okay.
especially kind of in the boroughs. I think New York guys and anybody on the East Coast,
Right.
especially from the Northeast, has a little bit of a chip on their shoulder
Yeah, yeah.
when it comes to being able to build and drive and do everything. Only because we never had the weather.
Yeah,
So
right.
like guys would they'd put their cars away in September, October, and they wrench on them all up until
Come
like
winter.
March or April, and then
Yeah.
that one day that you got out, you'd be like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And it was. I think we appreciated it a little more,
Right, right.
just because we didn't have access to the weather and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I think it's a little grittier. I think people on the East Coast are a little. They're much more critical
Yeah.
of other people's cars. I think.
Okay.
Um, Whereas I
They
think on the
well,
West.
I
Go
think they take more pride in it. You know what I mean? I think that's what it is, more a prideful thing. It's because they, like you said, they put the cars away for 4, 5, 6 months at a time, and they put all their heart and soul into this thing over the winter, right?
Yeah,
And then come springtime, they
they
want it out,
do.
and they're like, "This is my big." Because now it's like it's time to get the car back on the road, and they're like, "Yeah, I got
Oh
something to
yeah,
prove." You know what I mean?
everybody's just itching to get their stuff
Yeah,
out and to show it off and to enjoy it. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there is a massive sense of pride on that because we know we weren't able to drive them all year round. Like you might have that one nice day in like February where it's not
Mhm.
7 degrees, but it might be 40 degrees and there's no salt on the road. You'd be like, I'm going
Right.
for a drive, right? And it was like the greatest feeling
Cloud
in the whole
nine,
world.
cloud
It
nine, man.
was. It was. So I think everybody appreciates what you have.
Mm,
But I think the East Coast, you had a little more grit. You had a little. I think people were a little more critical
hmm.
of. I think East Coast guys are a little critical of West Coast.
Okay.
But I think there's a little bit of jealousy there only because of the weather. I'll probably
Right.
get chewed up for saying that, but I don't care. Um, but listen, it's part and parcel of it. I mean, like I said, we're out here now. We're super spoiled. There's
Oh
no
yeah.
question about it. Like I went for a 250-mile run on Sunday
Okay.
up through Napa Valley and Sonoma and on the coast, and it was amazing.
Yeah.
Um, where in New York, you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna run down to the South Shore of Long Island, or I'm gonna go up to like, go to Westchester in the car, or I'm gonna go to the Hamptons or do something like that. It's just different. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say it's better or worse, but it is different, and the sensibilities are a little different.
Just the environment, the roads, you'd be dodging potholes most of the time, especially this time
Oh,
of year with the salt and then the weather just not letting out. There's potholes everywhere, right? And so you're like kind of
the,
swerve all over, not to curb your wheels.
yeah, yeah, but it's also different. Like it was like people still don't believe me. I'm like, yeah, my wife and I, we used to like take the Charger and just drive into Manhattan with it, park it on the street, and go get dinner. And
Yeah,
people would be like, "How would you do that?" Like we'd go through the Lincoln Tunnel and just Times Square and whatever.
yeah,
It was you did that because that's where you lived.
right,
it's
right.
not like
You were used
you'd
to it.
have
You
people
thought nothing
going.
of it. Yeah,
It was home.
yeah,
That's
right,
where you lived. So like you drive your car through Brooklyn or through Queens. That's where you live. So of course that's where you were going to drive it. But
right,
people out here are just like, I can't believe you would do that. I'm like, it was my home. Where else am I going to do it?
right,
Where else are
right.
you going to go?
Yeah, right,
So
exactly.
so but it was great because if you could do that and if you could document that, it would a lot of times it would inspire to people like, listen, they're just cars, man. Just get out. It doesn't matter where you live. Take them out. Go to the city. Go to your town. Just drive. It's just metal things.
Yeah, right,
You
right.
know.
We'll just tear it
So
apart when we patch the floor pans up and stuff later.
everything goes back together. I mean, we live in a time where absolutely everything is fixable. Every
Right.
single part, regardless of what you have or how rare it is, you can pretty much remake it or get it if you have the wherewithal to do so.
Especially with the aftermarket now, mate. Suspension, body panels. I mean, trim.
Dude,
You get all that stuff
everything,
now. Yeah.
everything, and yet it still boggles my mind that people are just like, "Well, I gotta drive my car in the rain, or I do that." Like it rained. Like when I came home on Sunday, I don't know, we got caught in the rain for an hour or two, whatever the
Yeah.
case was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's rain. Who cares? Like it's
Right.
only
It's water.
water. It's the
Yeah.
same shit that comes out of your hose. Like it's not a big deal.
It's like you wash your
You might
car, right?
you might have to clean it when you get home, or
Yeah.
if you
Right.
that's the other thing. I think, and this just comes with age. The older I've gotten, the less I
Yeah.
care about having like the shiniest thing, the perfect thing. I just want all my garbage to run right so I can get out and drive and enjoy it.
Exactly. I'm
That's
the same
all I
way.
really care about.
Yeah. I'm the
You
same
know.
way, man. So, I mean, what's as far as like classic markets goes, we're on that subject. What do you think is going to happen in the next 10, 15, 20 years? I mean, you got these, the Zoomers and the millennials. Do you think they'll eventually kind of gravitate to those cars? You think they'll just dismiss them, or you know what I mean? Like, kind of,
No, it was interesting. The run that I did on Sunday or Saturday, sorry. Um, there were a ton of young guys up there. I mean, guys,
okay,
in their early 20s, 30s, and they were all driving old stuff, right?
really?
Like there.
Okay,
Oh yeah, but it was such like a melange of different cars. Like,
right,
these two kids pulled up in like an '83 RX-7. Another guy was in an '84 Supra. Somebody else pulled
right,
up in a Jaguar and XJS. Another one pulled up in, there were old Porsches and stuff like that. And somebody else had an old Cougar.
yeah,
I think that honestly, everybody keeps saying, well, the car hobby is going to die. They're absolutely not. I think that the beauty of the older vehicles is that they're very relatable. They're still teachers. They're still the
hmm,
teachers of the automotive world, meaning
right,
if you want to know how a car works and you have something from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, you can still pop the hood, look under it, and go, I know what that does,
yeah,
right? I,
right,
I know what an alternator looks like. I know what a power steering pump looks like. I know what a brake booster looks like. And the cars will teach you. And the other part is they're still very workable. If you have some time, and the beauty is now we have like YouTube,
yeah,
you can teach yourself how to do just about anything, and it's not rocket science. I think the difference between the cars that are coming out now, we're talking 2024 and stuff like that,
hmm,
they're so complicated and they're so technical. And they have so much engineered obsolescence built into them
hmm,
that will they be around in 25 years? That I don't know. That I don't know because parts are becoming more complex.
right,
There is a lifespan built into these things
yeah.
where you can get a car from the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s. You can get a quarter million miles out of them. And it's not that hard to keep them on the road as long as you maintain them. Where new cars, I don't know how feasible that is.
Right. I mean, most new cars now, with a very few exceptions, are pretty much disposable appliances anyway. I mean, it's pretty much all crossover SUVs and whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they
Nobody.
they totally are.
Yeah. So it's like once they kind of run their course, people are just junk them. And no one's going to
Yeah,
restore a Ford Escape. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no interest in stuff
no,
like that.
no. But what I find interesting is like, you know, you still see you'll still see like Broncos and Ford Explorers and stuff like that. At least,
Right.
here's the other part about being on the West Coast. The cars out here last. It's not
Right.
uncommon to see people driving 35-year-old cars around on every single day.
Sure.
And the reason for that is they just don't disintegrate into the ground like they do on the East Coast, right? Like
Right. Right.
if you're in New York and you have to deal with winters, you're in the Midwest and you're dealing with winters, rust will destroy everything. We know this.
Yeah. Right.
Okay.
Right. Hence the Rust
So
Belt. That's why it's
rust
called the
belt.
Rust
So
Belt. Yeah.
right. So even if you do your best to maintain something, odds are the Mother Nature is going to get it eventually.
Right.
Where out here, we generally say that, on the East Coast and in the Midwest, cars rust from the bottom up.
Oh, yep.
Here they rust from the top
Thumbs
down
down. Yep.
because the sun just destroys everything. But if you maintain it and you keep your car garaged, if you have access to coverings, they'll last indefinitely. So it's just another aspect of location and
Hmm.
how much easier it is to keep cars on the road out here.
Absolutely. So, what's as far as the new stuff now? You're bringing this up. What do you think your thoughts are on the EV stuff? Like, do
You
you
know
think
what?
EV swaps are going to really be a thing? Do you think it's going to kill the hobby? Do you think it's a
No,
trend? Do you where are you at on it? Honestly,
I mean, I think that I don't think EV swaps are going to be a trend. I think
no.
they're going to be. I think people will do them just because they want something different. But for me personally, I
Yeah.
don't see the value in it. Right?
Right.
You know, when they first started, you had people coming out and being like, "I want to EV swap this and EV swap that," and like, why would you want to EV swap a 911? Why would you want to EV swap a Charger? Why would you want to EV swap a Grand National?
Right.
You're not making them better,
No.
right? Because that was never their intended purpose. Now, if you want to EV swap something like a '59 Caddy, a car
Right.
that was literally never meant to go fast, that was
Right.
never meant to be any time, or a '65 Lincoln or something like that, fine. They're cruisers, right? And if
Hmm.
you want to just cruise in silence and have that and still have all the looks, have at it. I don't have any problem with that.
Right.
But I
Right.
think on something where it was a performance oriented car, where the engine is such a part of it where you have to have that guttural sound and stuff like that.
Right.
I'm not really behind it. I think that part of the hobby is just a fad. I don't know anybody that's doing EV swaps. You have some manufacturers that are doing them, like aftermarket, whatever. I have literally no interest in that. If I want an aftermarket car or I want an EV car, I'll just go buy one because you know what? There's not a company in the aftermarket that's going to outbuild a Tesla or outbuild a Toyota EV or anything. It's just not going to
Right.
happen.
Absolutely.
You
And
know?
that's where I'm at on it too. It's part of these classic muscle cars and things of that nature. They're sort of what you said, alluding to what you were saying, that's kind of part of their soul. Like a Buick Grand National has its own unique sound, right? It's like that's
Sure.
part of the car's personality, that's part of what the car was, you
Hmm.
know. And then it's like anything else, like a Chevelle, or it's sort of, even if the car was faster, the speed isn't everything. Horsepower isn't everything. It's part
No,
of the soul of the car. It's part of the identity of the car, right?
it
So
is.
it's like remove that, then what do you have left? It's an empty shell of its former self.
Correct. And like
You
I
know,
said, if it was a car that was never like where the engine was an integral part of the personality of the vehicle, no
Exactly.
problem with that. Fine, who cares?
Right.
But
Right. Right.
where the engine was, then yeah, not my thing.
No, I agree. Definitely, man. So I mean, what's your favorite car? I was going to ask you. I know you have a couple of things going on right now. You have the '68 Charge that you've had forever, Mr. Angry, right? You have the
Hmm.
Daytona. What else do you
Yep.
have?
God, what else do I have? I have too many, unfortunately. I've got an old Jeep Grand Wagoneer,
Nice.
wood paneled Wagoneer, which is the worst car ever. It's essentially like driving a tractor.
Is it really?
Um,
I never driven
oh
one of
yeah,
those.
yeah. They're not. I mean, they're terrible. They look amazing. They look
Yeah.
amazing, and everybody's super nostalgic for them.
Right.
But they're not. They're not good. Like this is the whole thing. Like everybody, we take it out, and like it's my wife's truck, and I actually had it restored for her and gave it to her.
Nice.
And it's amazing. It's amazing in the fact that it brings so much nostalgia back to people that grew up in the 70s, 80s, and the 90s
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
because they were if you were on the East Coast, they were everywhere.
Everywhere.
If you
Yeah.
everywhere, right? Everybody
Yeah.
had one. But they were relegated like, your parents bought them new and then they handed them down to the kids when they were in high school and the kids just abused them and destroyed them. And so
Chunked
I
them.
think it's more
Yeah.
along yeah, I think now it's just more along the line of seeing one that's in great condition is such a rarity because it was, it's the granddaddy of the modern SUV, and
Right.
they are beautiful and stuff. But from a driving experience, I mean, they're solid live axles with leaf springs in the front and in the back. It's got the most inefficient V8 that you could ever imagine. They're 8 miles to the gallon. They slow as all hell, you know. But what I love about it, and I do love it, is it makes everybody smile, right? You can go
Yeah.
anywhere and you pull up and everybody has a story about one, or they just it's a very endearing vehicle. It's not a good
Sure.
vehicle, it's an emotional and endearing vehicle, and that's why you own one if you
Yeah,
if you want
exactly.
to.
I mean, they were everywhere in the '80s and '90s. I mean, you see them on TV shows and movies too, and like everywhere. Like the sitcoms, they had, the
Oh
family, the
yeah,
dad had one, whatever.
right.
But we forget how old that truck actually is. It dates back to what,
Oh,
62 or three or something, whatever.
63 it
Yeah,
went from 63 to 91. Like
there you
that's it
go.
had a 38-year lifespan or whatever it was. Like that's old.
I saw one stripped down not too long ago, and it's like you take the headlights and you grew like off like a '90 version, whatever. Take the front off and up. You can
Dude,
see that's the front end of the original truck still
it's the
there.
exact same. It was such I mean, and I totally understand why they kept making it because it was such a cash cow, right?
Right,
There was no
right.
R&D, there was no anything. They were like, let's just up the price 4 grand every year and just keep, have it churning out money. And that's what they did. And, but it's hard to like driving it in 2024.
Right.
It's difficult because it doesn't have the acceleration on for modern roadways. It
Yeah.
can't cruise at 80 miles an hour. It's not it's a great around town vehicle. It's great to just, you go to a car meet and you have out you want to go to lunch somewhere. It's wonderful. But as a vehicle to use as a daily driver in 2024, it's simply not up to par.
And then there's all the technical aspect of it too. Doesn't have Bluetooth, all that stuff we're all used to now, right? For the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, I could
you
go
know what?
without it. I mean, I'm old school, so I don't care. But like a lot of people,
Oh, dude,
you know what I mean? And they'd be
you know
missing
what?
stuff.
You can. I mean, like my
Yeah.
personal daily, the car that I drive every day. I have a '96 Bronco. That's what I
Okay.
drive
Cool.
every single day.
Oh yeah.
And like the first thing I did when I bought, I've had that car for 5 years. First thing I did when I bought that is I pulled the original, deck out and I put in, a stereo with Apple CarPlay with a flip up screen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but even that is still still a big lump of a thing, right? It gets 11 miles to the gallon. It doesn't really like to go over 75 miles an hour. But I like it because
Hmm.
it's a simple vehicle. I understand it. I can fix it. I can wrench on it myself. It is still an unbelievably usable thing. It's got
Yeah, right.
tons of room. It's it's got 17 moving parts, right? If it breaks, you can open the hood and you can be like, that fell off, or
Yeah.
that burned through, or that's leaking. And it's fixable. You go to the parts store, it cost me $7 to fix.
Hmm.
And
Right.
that's the beauty of cars from that era and trucks from that era.
Right. Right.
It's like this sweet spot, the 90s through, I want to say, like 2008, 2010, around there.
Yeah.
That's the sweet spot of cars that you can still get that are totally usable on a daily basis in 2024.
Yeah. I agree. 100%.
So,
And just
you know,
it's like after that era, it's like a lot of the stolen cars kind of died too, like we were saying earlier. They're just sort of just disposable commodities at this point, Apart from a few
yeah.
different like the Charger, Challenger, Corvette, Camaro, Mustang, the
Hmm.
new Bronco I like, maybe the Jeeps. But outside of that, it's the all mainstream stuff, man. Just like you can take it or leave it, and I can't tell a Buick from a Kia, from a Ford to anything at this point. They look the same to
Nah,
me.
dude, it's hard. It's hard. And listen, they're nice cars. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong. Like
yeah,
they have
sure,
every modern amenity and they're nice. It's just they don't have. There are very few cars today that I look at and I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably want to own that. Like I'm like so few cars today that
yeah,
I even care about.
right,
Um,
right. I'm the
it's
same
just
way.
it's just not. I mean, I look at F bodies like from like Trans Ams and stuff from the early '90s,
Yeah,
the mid '90s, and like those cars. You look at a Trans Am, like a '94 Trans Am, right?
right.
You look
Yeah,
at that today, it looks like nothing else on the road. When that came out, it was a Batmobile with the big spoiler in the front, the massive
yep.
wing, and the whole. Everyone was like, "What the hell is this thing?" But the nice part about that is you can get one now. They're starting to really rise in value,
Mhm.
but they're still 100% usable today. You could buy a low mileage one right now, the nicest one on the planet. Spend 35 grand, get the nicest one on the planet Earth.
Yeah,
Go out, drive it every day, and it will last you for 150,000 miles, and it won't blink. Like
easy. Yeah,
that's a great car. It's an
right.
enthusiast car. It'll get 25 miles to the gallon. It looks great. It's different.
It's different.
So,
Yeah,
and I think people just they overlook these things. They're like, well, it's so old. And I'm like, old doesn't mean antiquated at times. Old
right,
can mean if it's maintained, they're fabulous vehicles. They have all the style in the world. They can still cruise 100 miles an hour all day. They don't care. They're great
right.
cars, you know?
It's funny too because we think, oh, I want a new car, I want a new car, but a lot of people don't realize again, new cars get old quickly, right? So I mean, I bought a 2016 Silverado brand new, and that was 8 years ago. I still think it was last week to me. I keep forgetting how long ago
That's right.
2016 was. It's already almost been
That's
a
right.
decade. So all cars get old, sooner or later anyway. Nothing's new forever.
Correct.
As soon as you drive it off
Correct.
the lot, it's not brand new anymore anyway. So what's the difference?
Well, the other thing is the value. When you talk about the value proposition, right?
Yeah.
Like the average price of a new car is, I think, $44,000, which is that's an absurd amount of money when I think about
Mhm.
that for a car, right? Um, if if you were to take $40,000, you can generally go out and buy the one of the nicest examples of something from the '80s, '90s, and the early 2000s for that.
Right. Right.
And it will have more style. It'll be a simpler machine to own and operate. The costs will be lower. Um,
Has
so
more
yeah,
character. It'll
more
go up in value.
character. Just yeah, and they're
You
just
know what I
they're
mean?
just cool. A lot of times more fun to drive. So
Yeah.
I mean, like
Absolutely.
I like older stuff, dude. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I like
Hell
older
yeah.
stuff. So
So you've had a lot of cars come and go in the last few years. What's one you let go that you kind of wish you hung on to?
the one that I miss the most, and it's the most oddball car that like nobody wants. I had a 1970 Chrysler Newport Custom,
Okay.
which is just a big tuna boat of a car. It is not desirable in any way. It was just a big C body Chrysler
Yeah.
with a 383. But it had it had working AC and power. It was a loaded car. But I think that the thing that I love most about it, it was so impeccably maintained. It was just a perfect example of a beautiful car that had no issues with it. Um, and I sold it, and I kick myself every day because I've never seen
Yeah.
another one in that condition. And I've tried to find the guy that I sold it to, and because I would buy it back tomorrow. I mean, that's the
Man.
one car I really miss. Yeah.
The one that got away.
The one that got away. Yeah.
So what's next for you guys, man? What are you planning right now? What's on the agenda for 2024? And tell me more.
God, we have Hemmings has so the crazy part about Hemmings is we have so much stuff going on.
Okay.
We've got 6 shows in production right now,
Yeah.
um, which is I mean, I'm the director of programming, so I'm on the road all the time.
Yeah.
But it's great because the beauty is that, you've seen the Motor Trends and the Hoonigans and stuff like that. And I think Hemmings is, for a company that's been around and has the legacy that we have, we're coming out with programming now that speaks to every generation. Like we have
Okay.
a show called Repair to Rev that's coming out soon, which is a show where it's a father and a daughter show, right?
Okay.
And it's great. So you have one generation passing down knowledge to the next, and we have cars that are coming in that they're fixing up and getting back on the road. We have a car buying show, which is literally how to get in to buy your first classic car,
Yeah.
because so many people
Nice.
want to get into the hobby, but they have no idea how to get into the hobby, what the pitfalls are, and what the questions are that you should ask, and things like that, and what cars are available for what money. So we've got that. My old show, The House of Muscle, that's coming back. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Oh yeah.
Tested, we have a show called Tested that's coming back. We've got like the Killer Mike show just came out. So
Hmm.
we have a lot of stuff that's
That's
coming. But
awesome,
I
man.
guarantee you, there's something for everybody. We've got shows for people that have been following us for the last 50 years. We've got shows for kids that are just getting into the hobbies. We've got JDM stuff. I think everybody's going to look at us at the end of 2024 and be like, Hemmings did that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
which is cool. And it's,
Yeah.
it's, it's really fun to be a part of that. And the other thing is, for the first time, we've got 4 massive events that we're putting on this year too.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
So we have an event series. It's called Muscle Palooza, and we
Okay.
that was an event that we've done for years up in
Yeah.
Lebanon Valley in Upper New York. But now we're taking that. We're doing 4 events across the United States,
Right.
and they're all Muscle Palooza events, but they're drag race events. We've got burnout pits and drift boxes and stuff like that. And we just looked at it and said, we've watched over the last like 3 decades how other companies have dropped the ball, and the beauty of kind of being a 70-year-old company, but somewhat being a little dormant and a little on the down low side,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
you can observe and you can see what other companies have done and worked, what has worked for them and what hasn't. And we've been really fortunate that we're just cherry picking from all these different things that we've seen succeed and
Yeah. Yeah.
fail, and to create our own event series. So that's
Nice.
pretty cool. So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
stoked about that.
Oh yeah, man. I definitely
Create,
have to check out some of these events myself, man. Maybe I'll show up in one of my cars and
I
catch up
would
with you
love
there,
that.
man.
Would
Absolutely, yeah.
love that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We'll
Absolutely.
definitely have to stay in touch because we have some stuff coming up I want to work with you on, and maybe do some like video series together too and shit. So
Well, where are you located at?
I'm actually in the Midwest, man. I'm in Ohio, so
Oh, okay. We're in Ohio.
like Youngstown area. Like so, I'm like about 45 minutes north of Akron, of like Summit Racing Akron, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah, I know
yeah,
where it
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
No, my brother lives out there, dude. So I spent some time out
Oh
there.
no shit, we're at what part of
Yeah,
Akron?
he's in a place called Sunbury.
Okay, yeah, I heard of it. Not
Yeah,
familiar, but yeah, 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 yeah. Cool. I didn't know that.
yeah,
Small
yeah.
world, man.
So it is. Yeah, so he's out there. So I get there every now and then, and
Yeah.
it's it's cool. I mean, but that's the other part about doing production, is that we're all over the country at any given time.
Nice.
Because you're interacting with enthusiasts at any given time. So it's like,
For
well,
sure.
if a great car is in Ohio, I'm going to Ohio. If there's a
Yeah,
great
right.
car in Iowa, I'm going there. If there's one in Texas, I'm going to Texas. So that's the cool part, is that anywhere you go in the United States, it doesn't matter
Mhm.
how big or how small the town or the city is. There's car culture there, which is amazing.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Yeah, man. Next time you're up in my way, man, we definitely have to reconnect and do some stuff together, man, for sure.
I would love to. That'd be great.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, Mike. Cool, man. Hey, it was nice talking to you, man. I was great to catch up and get some FaceTime with you a little bit here and maybe get some plans up for this year.
Yeah, dude. Anytime you ever want, reach out. Pick up the phone, just call. I'm super accessible at any given time.
Awesome, man. It's nice talking to you, sir.
You too. All
All
right,
right,
buddy.
man. Talk to you soon.
Be
Take
well.
care.